When clients need planning for long-term care, it's really different when I'm working with clients who are facing a crisis. In other words, a loved one is in need of nursing home care or some kind of care in the home right now when they come to see me, because our options become more limited at that time. It doesn't mean that there is no help. It just means that we have to work within a realm of rules and laws that look very different from the clients that I can help years in advance. So in a crisis planning situation, I'm often talking to a couple, or maybe it's a single client and I'm working with the family members to try to figure out how to qualify the client for Medicaid. Medicaid pays for over 70% of the nursing home costs in the United States of America. So it's very heavily utilized as a resource for people who have no other way to pay the expensive costs of a long-term care program. Crisis planning often involves going to court. It may mean that we need to establish a guardianship or a conservatorship for a client. The guardian is the person who makes day-to-day living decisions for a client or healthcare decisions. The conservator is the person who manages the finances. And if there is no planning in place that will cover the issues that have come up in the person's life, we may have no other option than to go to court and get an order putting someone in charge of making those decisions. In a crisis planning situation, we are often looking at the client's income and resources. And when someone needs to qualify for Medicaid, there are limitations on both of those things. So sometimes we're working to create an income cap trust, which is also called a Miller Trust, that will cap a person's income and allow them to otherwise qualify for Medicaid. Other times people just have too much stuff, and so we look at the state laws that tell us what assets does Medicaid count and what assets does Medicaid not count, which those assets are called exempt. And sometimes we can take a resource like something that the person has as an investment, and we can take that resource and turn it either into income by purchasing a Medicaid compliant annuity, or we can take that asset and we can pay off a mortgage, and thereby it becomes an asset that is not counted by Medicaid. So we've transformed it from something that Medicaid would make you spend down into something that Medicaid doesn't really worry about before they will pay for your long-term care. That's what crisis planning is all about. It's looking at income, looking at assets, and trying to figure out how to best position the client so that they will qualify for Medicaid and be able to maintain as much of their income and resources as the government will allow, and also going to court and making sure that we have the right people in place to make the decisions for that person. If I'm planning, on the other hand, for someone in advance, and particularly if I have at least 5 years before the person will need nursing home care, and I know you can't guess that. we don't know when someone will necessarily need long-term care. But if you do it while you're young enough, and while you still have the capacity to create planning documents, we can create all kinds of things to avoid the court process, or to make sure that you have assets that are protected as an additional resource later on. Maybe you'll need Medicaid, but you want to make sure that there's enough money there for a spouse or for your other family members, maybe a disabled child, or you want to make sure that the resources will be available to you to supplement the care that the government is going to provide. So planning in advance can make a huge difference in your quality of life and in the quality of life of the people that you care about. And we do that oftentimes by creating a special kind of trust. Other times we may not need the trust. We can do other things to make sure that your needs in the future will be met as best as possible. I'm Alex Kincaid, and you're welcome to call my law office to discuss your planning options.